Pro football is king. That we all know. But which teams have the edge? Which players will shine this week? That's the information we're all trying to find out. And VSiN's got the answers for you. Now, on Inside the Numbers, get the very best information from VSiN's hosts and special guests on the biggest NFL games of the weekend. The best of VSiN, the Pro Football Edition, right now.
Welcome to Inside the Numbers, the best of VSiN. Over the next 2 hours, the VSiN team will provide you with all the news, notes, and analysis from this past week's shows to help you get set for another action-packed NFL weekend. We kick things off this week with a preview from a member of our Atlantic City team. Former NFL exec and now VSiN host Michael Lombardi breaks down the Sunday action with Brent Musburger and his guys in the desert.
Well, Benny and Amal joining us now. Michael Lombardi, a VSiN co-host of Betting Across America in Atlantic City, New Jersey on Saturday morning and Sunday morning with Jonathan Von Tobel. Michael, I saw a picture of your set. We have been running it during our commercial breaks. That's a very, very good-looking broadcast position, my friend. How are you?
I am great, Brent. It's awesome. I mean, this week on Sunday there was the action was early. Because the weekend, Veterans Day, the place was packed really early. But there was a lot of things going on, and it was a tough weekend to make money. I can tell you that for sure. But it was a lot of fun.
Mike, I want to turn our attention to a team that nobody, in my opinion, is talking enough about, the Tennessee Titans. This is the number one defense in terms of points allowed so far in the NFL. Mariota's really been playing well the last 3 weeks. They came within a 2-point conversion and knocking off the Chargers. They are getting 1.5 now on the road against the Colts. I like them in this particular spot with the way this team is trending. What are your thoughts on the Titans as a whole?
Well, when I break down the weekly games, I always try to look at defense because I don't think you can play great defense from start to finish. I think it's all situational defense, and there's 6 categories of defense that require great attention to situationally. Those scores at the end of the half, third down red zone points allowed, big plays allowed, third and short being able to stop a team, third down overall, and then points allowed in 2 minutes. The number one team in those areas, when you add them all up, the Tennessee Titans, that's why they're winning. They're playing great situational football. They're not turning the ball over. They're not doing anything to beat themselves. And I think they're going in to face an Indianapolis team that has scored an average of 30 points a game in the last three games. They're now finally healthy. And Indianapolis is protecting the football. We have not seen the Andrew Luck interception. So this is a game that I think it's really going to challenge Tennessee in this sense. They're going to have to score in the 20s. They're going to have to get maybe in the high 20s to beat this Colt team because the Colts move the ball on everybody. They're second best team on third down. They methodically move the ball down the field. I think this is one of those games, the Colts to me are peaking at the right time only because they have their team back now.
Hi, Michael. It's Vinny. And speaking of a team that moves up and down the field, the Saints at home this week, getting bet from 7.5 to 8, probably even 8. There are 8.5s going to show here against the Eagles, and the Eagles also probably in desperation time here. What are your thoughts on this game, Mike? Saints hosting the Eagles in New Orleans.
Look, I think the Eagles, when you look at their numbers last year to this year, it's remarkably different. First of all, last year, they scored 106 points in the first quarter. They played from in front the entire year. In fact, if you remember the video clip, Belichick walks over to Doug Peterson before the game and says, geez, I can't find a game where you're playing from behind. This year, they've only scored 21 points in the first quarter. They can't get ahead. You get behind the Saints, it's going to be problematic. And the way the Saints move the ball, especially in this game where they can attack the secondary. The concern I have about the Saints here is Teron Armstead, their left tackle. He's going to miss 3 to 4 weeks. That really hurts. Their offensive line is outstanding. And the Eagles live and die by their defensive line, and they got to play really well to pull this game out. I'm not sure they can do it. I think they can keep the game close because I do believe the Eagles will move the ball on the Saints.
Michael, the Sunday night game to me is very intriguing, very critical in the NFC North. Minnesota on the road, getting 2.5 at Chicago here. Here's my knock on the Bears. I think Trubisky has played decent. He's not an elite-level quarterback yet, and that's where the deficiency to me for this team is. And the Bears have 6 wins, but not a single one of these wins have come against a team over 500. I like Minnesota coming off the bye here. How do you see this matchup?
I love Minnesota. Look, Minnesota's only allowed 9 third downs to be converted out of 41. I mean, look, I've taken a lot of heat about Mitchell Trubisky, and I know they're going to elect him into Canton next week. The bus will be ready to go in Chicago. It's remarkable. It's truly remarkable. But the Bears have forced 24 extra possessions. They've created 24 turnovers, and they've been able to score on those 61 points. It's second best in the NFL. And New England's only better than them. And they are very good at preventing, at keeping the ball away. And I think he's done a good job. But once he has to handle pressure, it's interesting. He's the 24th ranked quarterback against blitz. When people attack him, they worry he doesn't make enough plays. He's inaccurate with the football, or let me say this, his location of the ball isn't precise. I think this is a tough game for them because I think what Mike Zimmer does defensively is exactly what causes Mitchell Trubisky trouble.
Michael, the Chargers, just talk about a team that nobody is talking about. They're getting healthy, too, and certainly at a critical time of the season, the final third of the season here. Your thoughts on the Chargers as they host the Broncos here, 7-point favorites in Los Angeles?
When I go through my notes every week and I look at teams, the Chargers are sneaky good. I mean, they're everywhere. The Rams are. They're everywhere where the Chiefs are. They're everywhere where the Saints are offensively. And, they have 2 running backs that average over 5 yards a carry. And, I thought they played, and Brent can speak to this, but just watching the tape, I thought they gave probably the Raiders their C game. I don't even think they played their best game of the season and still beat them by 2 touchdowns. I think this is a really good football team, and I think that Phillip Rivers is playing at a level that's just remarkable. And even though he didn't play great last week, he still was good enough. And playing Denver, we know Keenum's 1-3 on the road. He doesn't make a lot of big plays on the road. He's thrown 4 picks. He's got 5 touchdowns, and he's been sacked 14 times. And if Bosa comes back, he's going to get sacked even more in this game. I love the Chargers here. I think the Chargers are playing at a high level. And if Bosa comes back to attack Garrett Bowles, the left tackle, I think that could be problematic for the Broncos.
Steelers trending in the right direction as well, Mike. I mean, here we talk about a team that's desperate for a win in a critical situation. The Jaguars at home against the Steelers here. The Steelers with extra rest and Big Ben, 5 touchdowns that last Thursday night game. Steelers 5.5 and climbing.
It's funny, Vinny. The thing that's interesting is everybody's talking about Big Ben and Connor, but it's the Steelers' defense the last 6 weeks that have played really well. They've only given up 300 yards one time, and that was to the Falcons 6 weeks ago. They've played really good defense. They've only given up 85 points in the last 4 games. They're 3-0, 0-1 on the road. And when you break down Jacksonville, there's nothing about Jacksonville's team this year that resembles last year's team. Last year, they were second in offensive points allowed. This year, they're 11th. Last year, this is where it really becomes problematic. They were second in sacks. This year, they're 27th. And last year, they were 30th in takeaway. They're 30th in takeaway points scored. This year, last year, they were 1. They can't score with their defense. They can't turn the ball over with their defense. It puts all the burden on the great Blake Bortles, and he can't make plays. And they're not able to run the football effectively to take the pressure off of my man Blake.
Michael, I want to go big picture here with some of these teams as we're getting toward the later part of the season. The Raiders have been sluggish in their efforts, it seems like. I have found that in weeks 14, 15, 16, and 17, betting against teams who are out of playoff contention tends to be pretty profitable. From your view as an executive, have you noticed whenever you guys would be in a situation against teams that really didn't have much to play for, it seemed like the effort was there, but then all of a sudden the game gets away and that team that's the favorite just tends to just blow them out? How do you see these matchups in some of these Raiders, Cardinals type of games, the Detroit Lions, the New York Giants, when we get further and further into the season and they don't have much to play for?
Yeah, that's a great question because I always felt like when I was in the league, when you played a bad team, they'll give you a quarter, and if you let them hang around, they'll give you 4. But if you punch them in the mouth, they'll retreat, and you'll just run away with the game. And I think that's still the case. I think that's it. Teams will come and play, and if it gets a little tough, if the water's a little dirty, they're going to get out of the pool, and they're going to stop. So I do think that's the case. Now, when you're playing Arizona, Oakland, I don't know in that game. Both teams play sloppy. Both teams don't play well to begin with. I mean, Derek Carr is a case study in just some of the most unbelievable numbers in terms of a guy that hasn't thrown an interception in the last couple of weeks, but doesn't make any plays either.
Yeah, exactly. Michael, because I probably feel that Mitchell Trubisky is a little bit further along than you do, He has 19 touchdowns and 7 interceptions on the season. To put that into context, that's 2 more touchdown passes than the Hall of Famer Tom Brady and the same number of interceptions. It's the same number of touchdown passes as Aaron Rodgers. In fact, scratch that. It's also 2 more than Aaron Rodgers, 2 more than Kirk Cousins, and Jim Miller, the former quarterback, who I respect. Now, I'm not, listen, I'm not an expert on quarterbacks. You know more about them than I do. But he said that Mitchell Trubisky is maturing and is better than he was, far better than he was last year. And I'm just saying those are raw numbers. And no, I'm not saying he's as good as Tom Brady. I don't want anybody to misunderstand that. But I am defending him a little bit. I think he's a little bit better than you might think. What do you say about that, Michael?
Well, I think that he is better than he was last year, and I think that Matt Nagy deserves a ton of credit for what he's done. But I think when you look at his schedule, his schedule resembles the team competing for the top 10 picks in the draft. The teams that he's beaten, Oakland, Arizona, the Jets, Detroit, those teams, Tampa Bay, those are the teams that he's beating, and all those teams are competing for the first pick overall in the draft. My point about Mitchell Trubisky is simply this. I will be the first to say he's really improved when he does it against a really good defense. The New England Patriots, I went back and watched that game today. He had a chance to, those interceptions, those 7. I mean, the Patriots dropped 3 of them. Now, Landon Roberts had one between the 5 and the 2 that I think it shocked him. And so, I think he's got to do it against a defense that moves quickly, that puts pressure on him and forces him to be accurate under that pressure. Do I think he's gotten better? No doubt. Do I think Matt Nagy's done a great job? Yeah, there's no question. But look, that schedule in Chicago, they're going to the playoffs. Michael, there's no doubt. They don't have a hard game.
If I may add a little bit of support to your argument, Brent, you mentioned the 19 touchdowns. A third of them came against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 6 in one game.
Put 48 on the board. Defense gave up 10. We'll take it. I took the week off when he played the Oakland Raiders. I missed that game completely. I'm just saying, Michael. All right.
Okay. I said he was competing for the first pick. I mean, I was
okay. I'm sorry.
The Raiders
I'm sorry. I just misunderstood you. Okay. Now.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, no,
I love the more. It's the Chicago in you coming out, Brent. I can just see it.
It is. I love the Polish people in Chicago. The Irish people. I love the neighborhoods. It's just part of it. It's in my blood. I'm a Bear guy through and through, and so obviously at 2.5, I'm backing the Bears against you and Amal's Vikings. Okay, and we shall see. It's dinner in Atlantic City, lad.
There you go. And, the thing that's amazing about him, I think Mike Zimmer put it in perspective today when he called him, this guy's the second leading rusher on the team. He's got 81 carries. The thing that makes him effective and then sometimes doesn't make it is his ability to move with his feet, and he's out there in the pocket. When you watch the Patriot game, he was inaccurate out of the pocket. Now this week they're going to force him out of the pocket. He's going to have to make some throws on the move, and can he make them accurately? I think that remains to be seen. But we'll do dinner at Chef Vola, a private dinner house right there in Atlantic City, right awesome. There.
And I'm just saying before I sign off, Trubisky's rating 101.6, higher than the Hall of Famer Tom Brady, higher than Aaron Rodgers, almost equal to Kirk Cousins, much higher than Eli Manning, higher than Andrew Luck, much higher than Joe Flacco, higher than Derek Carr, higher than Case Keenum, higher than Blake Bortles for sure, higher than Andy Dalton, higher than Alex Smith, higher than Baker Mayfield. I'm just saying. Hey, Michael, I want you to have a great weekend, my friend.
22nd against pressure, my man, Brent.
Yeah.
Have a great one, guys.
Yeah. Tell me a quarterback who's good under pressure.
Tom Brady,
the best quarterback in the league.
His rating's not even close to my man Trubisky. All right. Take care, Michael. Have a great weekend.
All right.
Time for a quick break. A look at the updated division odds when we come back on Inside the Numbers, the best of VSiN.
This is Inside the Numbers, the Pro Football Edition, the very best information from VSiN's hosts and guests on this week's biggest pro football games. You can listen to VSiN on SiriusXM Channel 204. Watch us online at vsin.com and follow us on Twitter at VSiN Live.
Andrews, the South Point Hotel Casino sportsbook director, kind enough to join us on the phone this morning. Chrissy, I leave you with this. I know you started by saying, "Hey, look, everybody's got their own problems. Let's not talk about mine." But could you just briefly, for those who don't know, briefly share why it is that we're having this blood drive on Monday here, and why that is so personal to you, what you've been going through?
Well, it is extremely personal to me. You know, they were asking me, they were going through my records, how many transfusions have you had? Man, I don't know. I mean, it's got to be well over 20. Yeah, my wife's saying it's a lot more than that, you know, so it is. But without them, I would be dead. And it's one of those things where the disease I have, I'm not producing enough red blood cells. So, so it is very personal to me, and it is one of those things. You know, when I was a younger man, I used to go and donate blood myself until I discovered that I had, anemia, and I didn't really know the cause until about a year or so ago. But it's something that's really, really important, and you can see all the devastating fires and all the, just all the incidents that happen here in America and really around the world. You know, that people need blood on occasion, and it's one of those things where, if you can come and donate, it's not that difficult to do. Usually you sit down in a chair. It takes, probably less than an hour, and they give you some orange juice and a couple cookies and that sort of thing. And it's not a horrible experience, and you're really doing something for your fellow man. And, and like I said, without it, I'd have been long gone, man. I really would have been. But, so it is something that means quite a bit to me. And if something were to happen where they ran out of blood for some reason or another, well, I'd be in pretty big trouble. I can tell you that.
God forbid. November 19th, Monday, this coming Monday here at the South Point from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Yeah.
In the Brunswick Room. We will have a blood drive. Everybody can come in and donate blood. I know I will. Everybody here will. And for folks who are not in Vegas, www.redcross.org. You can click the Give Blood tab to learn where to donate near you. We hope you'll join us in honoring Chrissy and helping the more than 4.5 million Americans who need donated blood each and every year.
Welcome back to Inside the Numbers, where you get the best insight from VSiN's experts on this weekend's biggest pro football games.
Believe it or not, we are nearing the three-quarter mark in the NFL season. Mitch and Paul from Follow the Money give us a glimpse at the latest division odds.
As we look at updated division numbers in the NFL, NFC East, it's amazing how this thing, what one game for each team meant a week ago. Redskins winning at Tampa, catching 3.5. When they won that game 16-3, allowed 500 yards and only 3 points. Never heard of that before in my entire life. Eagles.
Well, it's never happened.
Yeah. Eagles were a pick'em. They were a pick'em.
Yeah.
Or even money last week. And then they go out and they perform like that against the Cowboys. Now they're plus 240. Redskins are $1.35 to win this division now.
I got them 5-1. I don't like it, though. Yeah. So the Eagles are going to sweep them. They get them on Monday night at home coming up. They're just they're a mess because of all these injuries and Alex Smith at the bottom in all these key categories. Offensive lineman out. The running game's going to suffer and just needed a miracle as Tampa Bay went up and down the field and then would fumble in the red zone. So trust me, they go to the team you got to worry about actually be the Cowboys because they haven't played the Eagles yet, speaking of the Redskins, and then they have to go to Dallas on Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. So big edge there for the Cowboys too. That, man, who knows? Maybe they've got a spark here with the offense. They can figure some things out. But
I'll tell you what, before the season, when you always look at the Thanksgiving schedule, who's going to play, do you like it or not? Washington and Dallas again, you're like, oh, Jesus Christ, come on. Really? On Thanksgiving? Now it's a huge game. I don't like the Eagles' defense whatsoever, though. That was a really bad look again on Sunday night against the Cowboys. NFC North, Bears are plus 120. Vikings are plus 125. Packers plus 375. So if you like the Vikings to win on Sunday, is the bet to take them right now plus 125 to win the division?
Yeah, that's the play. Bears have a tough schedule coming up as well. They're drinking the Bears Kool-Aid. I see they flexed the Bears twice this game, and they did it Week 14. They flexed them at home against the Rams on Sunday night. Boy, ESPN, what were they doing with that contract where they couldn't flex with this Monday night schedule? They get so many garbage games, and NBC gets the nuts every single week. They get the Chargers and Steelers week 13. It's like, all right, see, Monday night, you got to sit there and watch the 49ers, right? NBC's like, oh, we got the 49ers scheduled week. Get them out.
No, thanks.
Get them out.
Goodbye.
Pass.
Sure.
Pass. So we get what a run we have with the Sunday night. They flex the Chargers, Steelers, and then the Bears and Rams coming up, and you get this big one on Sunday.
I'll tell you what, if I'm
he's
ESPN,
got to prove it to me. I think the guy stinks. The stats don't lie. Pro Football Focus has him at the worst rated quarterback as a starter. So see if he can prove it to me and move the ball against the Vikings. Zimmer will have something for him, and we'll have great stats on Zimmer coming off against a team coming off a blowout win on tomorrow's show.
Well, that and also the Vikings are off a bye, right? And the defense getting healthy now. Maybe
Griffin came
figuring
back.
this out. Yeah, sure. And how good were they against Stafford and the Lions last time they played? With ESPN, one thing on that, I would talk to the NFL and say, are you kidding me with this? You want us to give you how many billions of dollars again after the contract is up? Hard pass on that. I think all networks should. The flex spot is absolutely what every network should want.
Yeah. Look
Okay.
at the South. Holy cow.
Well, 1-13 now on the Saints.
Yeah. Jeez. That's it. I think to get a big effort out of the Panthers. I think they'll bounce back and beat Detroit.
Yeah.
But they have this tough stretch where it's a lot of road games, and that's a Monday night game that's good. But Week 15 and Week 17, the Saints and Panthers play. One of them, Week 15's on Monday night.
Yeah, Carolina's plus 450.
I can't make a case at all for them.
Not anymore, no.
No, and the Saints had their number last year. Can't do it.
That, and it's not because of why Carolina and how they got beat against Pittsburgh. I don't even care about that. It's more about tipping my cap to New Orleans and saying nothing phases this team whatsoever. You can put them anywhere on the planet right now against any team. And they have, again, week 1, how did that happen? But since then, look at their schedule and how they've navigated this thing.
Yep. NFC West, total amateur hour by me. Talked about it, couldn't believe it, discussed it on the show all summer. Why were the Rams only 140 to win the division? Oh, and I didn't get down heavy. Sick. Buffoonery. And that thing could be over this week. Unacceptable.
Well, it looks like that was my best bet of the year.
Yep.
That was Rams even money to win the West.
You saw even money?
So I'll take that one.
Oh, my God.
Yep.
AFC East, that's over. Forget about that. Dolphins 10-1. Forget it. Good luck with Osweiler. And AFC North, how this has changed the last couple of weeks. Steelers a little plus money, then minus 170. Now with the win Thursday, and the Bengals getting beat. And we still don't have a line on that Bengal-Ravens game as Flacco's maybe it's Lamar Jackson who says he's ready to go. Steelers now 550 to win the North. King in the North again. Mm-hmm. They got it.
2 weeks ago, you could see this coming too, right? Bengals are paper tigers big time.
I took them 9-1 to win the Super Bowl. I said, why not? I could see it, right?
Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
Of course.
No Bell, rally around this. Was Connor and defense playing well lately? Sure.
I'm super excited for the playoffs. I mean, if they ended right now, today in the AFC, with KC and Pittsburgh, and the way the Chargers have been playing, maybe the Texans, if they're going to be completely healthy.
How about that first round game? Texans-Chargers, something like that. Whew. Hell of a matchup.
Yeah. Give me that right now, yeah.
Yep. And the Chiefs can't win a home playoff game. South Texans minus 240 now. Titans coming on. Great job blowing out the Pats, plus 280. Dogs in Indy, they never play well there. And Colts plus 850. So another tough game for the Titans. See if they can make it 3 in a row. And now how about that? How the mighty have fallen. Last place, Jacksonville. It's over. 3-6, 20-1. They're not making the playoffs.
No, it should be higher than 20-1 right now.
Oh.
And I'm telling you right now, again, I need to have my head examined because 2 weeks ago, talking in this segment, I said, watch out for the Colts. They're 18-1. It makes sense if we could just get the Texans to maybe come back to the pack a little bit.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Their schedule broke to where that number was going to disappear, and it dropped to 12-1. Now it's plus 850. And you watch what happens where this number goes if and when the Colts beat the Titans this week, and possibly the Texans lose on the road to Washington. They'd be a game back.
They already lost at home. They're 2.5 back right now.
Well, going back to that game, back. Frank Reich, I mean, I love what you're doing so far with the team.
That's big now. It's a good point. Take the tie.
Winning. Okay.
Yep.
You gave that away. To not settle for the tie and play for the tie in that spot was asinine. Mm-hmm. You had to. And people were actually trying to justify it. No, you don't. You never play for the tie. You gave them the game when you went for it on fourth down like that in your own territory. Tie would be, how does that look right now in that division? And they play one more time.
Boy, you got to like the Texans at D.C. Boy, the Texans should win that game. They're on fire.
Well, I also thought Washington was going to lose last week.
Well, they should have. That was a miracle. Absolute miracle. Team gave them the game. And the Chiefs are minus $5. How about that? They're still $5, and the Chargers are won 6 in a row. And it could be 9, or get up to 8, excuse me. Denver at home, and then I think it's Arizona at home. So they have some tough games coming up. That's a Thursday night showdown in December at Kansas City. But again, we said it's like, all right. I said this, like the schedule's pretty easy coming up. They're going to be favored in all these games. And Bosa's back at practice. Here we go. But no shame. You lost to Kansas City to start, and you went to L.A. and got beat by the Rams. That's it. Those are the losses. They've been fantastic.
Okay, so they're 7.5 on Sunday against Denver, assuming they win that game.
Well, you'd hope.
Well, the Chiefs can lose. They're dogs against the Rams. Record-wise, they would be tied. Chiefs would have the tiebreaker.
They got to go to Pittsburgh. They have to go to Kansas City.
That's the tricky one.
Baltimore at home, which they should win, but still no gimme. There was another tough game in there, too, I was looking at.
Well, it breaks well for them because they still get Denver this week. Then it's Arizona, and they'll be laying 2 touchdowns against Arizona. Then they have the Pittsburgh game on the road. Cincinnati, they should manhandle. At the Chiefs, they get Baltimore and at Denver. They can be 12-4. 13-3, I think, is a stretch for the Chargers.
12-4 wild card.
Yep.
Kansas City's very easy schedule. Haven't played the Raiders yet. Oh, boy. What's that number? Oh, boy. Raiders
Off the bye, they play at Oakland.
Oh, no.
On the road, they have to be laying 13.5, 14. Have to be. It's unfortunate they actually get Oakland in Week 17 at home.
Oh, it's Week 17?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, because if they don't need
they have to win that game?
Yeah.
Huh. 1 seed or something on the line? That could happen.
Imagine that. Yeah, imagine if they're tied with the Chargers, and in order to get the 1 seed, they get the Raiders at home, Week 17. That number's going to be 21.5.
Hey, this happens. Deion Sanders talks about it all the time. He would know. He played a long time. U-Haul backed up. I mean, the Raiders are ready to go and start the vacation. They're ready to get to the offseason. That U-Haul is backed up.
They look like
before that game.
They look like a team that is in the middle of a relocation, but they've had a flat tire in Victorville for like 3.5 months.
When we come back, the Westgate Super Contest is heating up. We hear from one of last year's top finishers next.
This is Inside the Numbers, the Pro Football Edition, the very best information from VSiN's hosts and guests on this week's biggest pro football games. You can listen to VSiN on SiriusXM Channel 204. Watch us online at vsin.com and follow us on Twitter at VSiN Live.
As Uncle Brent always says, cash and tickets is what it's all about. And that's what every issue of Point Spread Weekly is about, too, because VSiN wants to make you a better handicapper. Not just today or tomorrow, not this week or next week, but for months and for years to come. And now is your time to subscribe. We have a special limited time offer. We're halfway through the football season, more than halfway through. You can get Point Spread Weekly and full access to everything we do for just $99 through the Super Bowl. It includes our 24/7 live video, replays of our shows, our special guides, plus our online exclusives. This week's episode, 118 pages of Point Spread Weekly. Steve Mackinnon explains his 3 sets of strength ratings. Matt Humans has pro and college football games to watch. Dave Tooley takes on the weekend football schedule. Hoops Peterson is back. He'll talk about college basketball teams that will cover big spreads, NBA, NHL, NASCAR, CFL, golf, and more. The full package through the Super Bowl, $99. Go to vsin.com/subscribe to find the package that makes sense for you.
If you didn't catch VSiN last week, here's some of what you missed.
Here's a guy, he comes to the counter. He has a 10-teamer. He got 9 in to the Eagles. A $5 ticket pays like $4,000. So naturally, that's a big score, $5 bet. And he said, Jimmy, what can I do? I said, nothing. He says, can you hold the ticket and make the bet the other side? I said, listen. I said, Jimmy will be in jail and you'll be out of here. I said, the reason we can't ever do that is very simple. From gaming control and all the laws that are written here in Nevada, we can't hold your money for you. Correct. It's like a what-if bet. Like people say, well, they do it back east. They say, well, that's the illegal bookmakers. They can do what they want to do. But if you come to the counter and said, give me the Patriots early. If I win that game, bet it on the Cardinals late, something like that. We cannot do that.
It's too bad you weren't living here at the time, because who knows what you would have walked away with. So years ago, my ex wins millions of dollars.
Are you going to tell the story?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, yeah, sure.
All right.
It works. And I fall asleep. She goes, I'm going to go gamble, get you some lunch, and we'll see what happens. I go, okay, I'll see you when you get home. And I fall asleep on the couch. It's a Friday. I wake up, I got 50 missed calls. 50. It's like, you won't believe this. I just won. Well, it's over $5 billion. We'll just leave it at that.
Derek Stevens, who's been on air many times, who owns the D, right? Well, if Derek Stevens is hedging something, my answer is probably going to be different than if the casual $20 bettor is hedging something. Right. Is this a life? In other words, hedging has become such a cottage industry by blowhards on Twitter. Like, oh, yes, how you hedge this? You got to do this. Do you really? Most of the time? Like, is this most of the time when people are asking, I'm like, do you really need to lock in $20 here? Maybe you do. I don't want to make a judgment about it. Maybe you do. If you do, my answer is different than if you're like, oh, yeah, I guess I could lose that $20.
All right, John, let's get you out of here on this. Of course, we ask you every single time, what would you like to lock in before you get out of here?
To lock it in. Last week I locked in the Broncos, and they were right there for the push, and their coach decided to play for a 51-yard field goal, John.
Oh, Vance Joseph got
awesome.
you on that one.
So what are you looking at today?
You know what? Let me go with my Brownies, John. I'll go with the Brownies. They're plus 5.5 here. I think this line's crazy. Our look-ahead number on this game was Falcons -1. I think this number is an overreaction to the Falcons win last week and the Browns loss. I'll take the 5.5.
Welcome back to Inside the Numbers, where you get the best insight from VSiN's experts on this weekend's biggest pro football games.
As usual, this year's Super Contest is chewing up some seasoned pros and spitting them out. Yahoo's Frank Schwab joined Between the Sidelines to discuss his picks this week and more.
Let's start off with losing streaks because I am on one in the Super Contest, Frank. I had my first dud. I went 0-4-1, man. Yeah, after winning pretty much every single week, I'm now 0-4-1 in the last week, and now the wheels are spinning, as you know.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I went 4-1 2 weeks ago. Felt good. Felt like, hey, maybe I've figured some things out, figured some teams out. And then last week, I think I was 1-4. I honestly was so frustrated because the season has been so frustrating for me. I didn't even add it up. I didn't even go back and check if I went 1-3-1 or what. It was just a bad week, and I knew it was a bad week. And this NFL season has been tough. I mean, I think a lot of people are struggling with it just because. I don't know. I think just some of these teams, I do power rankings every Tuesday morning, and you just realize that it's like there's so many teams that are in this bin of, I guess they're good. Like there's like 3, 4, 5 good teams. There's about 6, 7 just horrendous teams, and everybody else seems to be 5-4, 4-5. You know, I mean, it's just there's just not a lot of separation between these teams, and it makes it more coin flippy than usual.
Frank, John Murray from the Superbook here. You know, I got to give Brent Musburger a pick for his Super Contest entry, and I was about to ask you what you like this week, and then you went on that rant about how hard picking the NFL is. I'm going to ask you anyway. What do you like this week?
Schwab's good. He had a bad week, and he's being dramatic.
Picking the NFL is the hardest. Picking the NFL is the hardest there is. I mean, that's why I'm reaching out to you guys for help.
It really is. I will like to say that I mention this as often as possible, that I did finish tied for 33rd last year. So, this was a bad year. There was no anomaly, I hope, anyway. You know, it's the ugliest game on the board. But why in the world are the Arizona Cardinals only -4 against a team that's quit? I've watched the Oakland Raiders plenty over the past few weeks. There is nothing in what they've done that gives me any reason to believe that they can keep it within a touchdown with anybody in the NFL. And I know Arizona stinks, but they did battle hard against the Chiefs. I just don't think they're good. I do think they're playing hard. There's a difference. I think the Raiders stink and they've quit. You could see it in the San Francisco game. I mean, before the end of the first quarter, I think if anybody's doing in-game betting, they know, oh, yeah, the Raiders are rolling over. Even last week, I mean, they had nothing going on offense. They haven't scored in 9 quarters. It's just a bad Raiders team that I think, and you hear all the things coming out of Oakland about we need to get out of here, the veterans want to jump ship, all that kind of stuff. It manifests itself on game day. I don't see this team going on the road and putting together a good performance. It's tough to lay 4 points with an offense as bad as Arizona, but I do think Leftwich has been better calling plays, getting David Johnson involved. I thought the spread was going to be 7, to be honest with you. Even as bad as Arizona is, I didn't think anybody would. Who's rushing to bet the Oakland Raiders at +4? So that game stuck out to me, and I hope I don't have to watch it. Let's put it that way.
Frank Schwab, NFL writer, Yahoo Sports, and your power rankings came out, like you said, last night. Read it this morning. You had the Chiefs 1, Saints 2, Rams 3, Chargers 4, Steelers 5. Your next 3, Patriots 6, and 7 and 8 will meet this Sunday in Chicago. Vikings 7 and the Bears 8. How do you shake that one out, Frank? Vikings at the Bears on Sunday night. Bears laying 2.5 or 3.
Yeah, and when you asked me what game I really like, I did think about mentioning the Vikings. Look, coming off a rest, coming off a bye, I think Dalvin Cook makes a big difference for them. The Bears are legit. There's no question. I'm not going to sit here and, yes, they've had a fortunate schedule. Let's put it that way. I don't think they have a ton of quality wins, but I think they're legit. They stop the pass, best passer rating allowed in the NFL. Their passer rating as a team is over 100. They're good. But I still think the Vikings, what we saw from them before the bye was a team that is getting going a little bit, 10 sacks against the Lions. This is a team, I picked them to win the Super Bowl. I'll admit it. I picked the Vikings to win the Super Bowl. I thought Kirk Cousins was going to be an upgrade for their offense, and he has been. Their defense hasn't shown up, but we saw signs of that right before the bye. This Bears offense is good, but I still think they're inconsistent. So I'm fine, especially if it's 3. 2.5 obviously gets tougher because of a key number, but if it's 3, if we can get 3 on the Minnesota Vikings, I think I'll be on that because I think they're live. I think they're going to go on the road and win. I think the Vikings are going to be one of those teams in the second half that really establishes, yes, this is why we were Super Bowl contenders before the season.
Frank, I thought it was interesting you said you had the Chiefs #1 in your NFL power ratings. I had originally made this point spread pick 'em when I thought the game was in Mexico City, and I was surprised to see all the money come in on the Rams. Push the Rams up to 2.5. Right now we got the Rams at -3.5. They're at home in L.A. Not much of a home field advantage in the Coliseum for the Rams. Would you give any consideration to taking Kansas City plus the 3 in the hook on Monday Night Football?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, this is a coin flip. And if somebody's going to give me 3 on either one of these teams, it's just, okay, you're playing the numbers, not the teams. So I think that when it gets down to it, I think the teams are very evenly matched. The difference between 1 and 3 in my power rankings, all 3 of those teams are basically the same to me. I think the Saints have been the best team since October started. I think the Chiefs, the totality of the Chiefs and what they've done, when you look at their resume and you really get down to it, I think they've been the best team. I know that Football Outsiders has them #1, I believe. Their only loss is at New England on the last play of the game. They're a very, very good football team. The one thing about the Rams that does worry me, Cooper Kupp is a big deal. I know that a lot of people are going to sit there and say, well, but they still got Robert Woods, they still got Brandon Cooks. Kupp is a huge deal for them. They are averaging 126 fewer passing yards per game without Kupp in the lineup. It got that Denver game where he got hurt really early and wasn't effective. He just is a unique talent that they really don't have a replacement for. And their defense hasn't been good. How are they? They got ran on by the Seahawks. They got passed on by the Saints. How are they going to stop the Chiefs? I like the Chiefs. I don't know how the move back to the Coliseum is really going to affect things, but I think the Chiefs are the better team. I really, truly do, and I think they're going to put up. I mean, what's your guys' total on that now? 63? I think it's going to go over. Right?
Yeah, 63 and a hook.
As crazy as that is, I wouldn't be surprised if the Chiefs score 40. Would anybody? I mean, and the Rams are going to might score in the 30s too. So I do think the Chiefs are the better team. And if you're giving me a field goal, yeah, I'm fine with that.
South Point just threw it back up too. Chiefs getting 3.5, and the total there 63.5. I want to talk divisions with you, Schwab, if we can. NFC East. Good luck. Who's winning this division? Redskins right now. Redskins are favored, Frank, -125 with 3 linemen down. The Eagles +225 and the Cowboys 3-1.
And the thing is, am I crazy for still liking the Eagles? Am I crazy for sitting there and saying, I believe they still have both games left against the Redskins?
They do.
I think that they're just the better team. I mean, and if they sweep, okay, there you go. That kind of closes that gap. I like the Redskins. I do. I was on them. Will Brinson over at CBS. We were out there for Odd Shark Weekend. We signed up for the Super Contest. He convinced me to take the Redskins to win the NFC East. The Redskins over 7, I believe they were at the time. He was all about them, and I've kind of come around too. They're a good, solid football team. They do a lot of things well. I do think Jay Gruden's a pretty good coach. But at the end of the day, no matter how many times the Eagles have had this Super Bowl hangover and really kind of been disappointing, I still think they're a far superior team. I know that they're in a really bad spot against the Saints this weekend with all the cornerback injuries. They still have to play at the Rams, I believe. They have the Texans at home, I think. It's a really tough schedule they have. But at the end of the day, it's tough for me to wrap my head around the Redskins beating the Eagles for the NFC East. It really is. So I saw that this morning, actually. I was looking at some division futures. I saw the Eagles at that number and thought, you know what? I think that's value. No matter how, maybe that's a square, maybe that's just reliving last year, but I still think the Eagles are going to get this thing turned around. Doug Peterson's too good of a coach.
You know, Frank, I'm a Redskins fan myself. I'm from D.C. I think you got to consider if the Redskins can beat Houston on Sunday, you've got to think Philadelphia is going to lose to the Saints. The Redskins would be 3 games clear of the Eagles in the NFC East. Yeah. I think the team that really lurks out there is actually Dallas. The Redskins are going to Dallas on Thanksgiving next week. Cowboys are a 5-point favorite in that game. Don't forget about the Dallas Cowboys. I think they're still very live. I also think no matter who wins this division, it's just going to lose in the wild card game anyway. But
yeah, I think that's right.
The Redskins haven't won a playoff game at home since 1999.
Who was a quarterback that year?
For the Redskins?
Yeah.
No, actually, Gus Farrat was the Lions quarterback, if you can believe that. The Redskins quarterback was Brad Johnson.
Yes. Ah, Brad Johnson.
And they had, I was at that game. Stephen Davis had a big game for the Redskins. We actually sacked Farrat on the first play of the game, and he fumbled. But yeah, it's been 19 years since the Redskins have won a home playoff game, so it'd be a big deal. But I think Dallas. Don't forget about the Cowboys in that division.
The only thing that gives me pause is their offense. I still don't – look, Amari Cooper helps for sure. I still don't trust Amari Cooper. He's way too inconsistent the last couple of years. I don't know who else in their offense really scares anyone. Ezekiel Elliott basically has to be like that 150-yard guy, and he was on Sunday night. I thought that was a kitchen sink game for them. I like the Cowboys in that spot. I didn't know that they were going to win straight up. But, I mean, that seemed to me like – backs against the wall, we're going to put everything into it. And now what? I mean, this is still the same team that lost at home to the Tennessee Titans, who I don't get the Tennessee Titans. They're one of those teams that okay, you figure the Tennessee Titans out, but I don't think that the Dallas Cowboys should be losing to them on a Monday night either. So I still have skepticism about the Cowboys, but as I sit here and talk about the NFC East, I have skepticism about everybody because every one of these teams is flawed.
Last game, Schwab. Have to ask you about this one. New Orleans has covered 7 in a row, and they are beating the doors off of teams. 51 in your building in Cincinnati, no problem. 51-14. But now, as you know, that gives you a little bit of an inflated line. You could take 8 with the Eagles. Would you rather lay the 8 or take the 8? New Orleans at home against Philly.
Oh, I'm taking the 8 all day. And again, there's so much of the NFL, at least in my handicapping, maybe I'm wrong about this, is sometimes you just got to pick a side you can't explain, X's and O's wise. I can't explain to you sitting here right now how the Philadelphia Eagles battered cornerback situation, how they're going to slow down Drew Brees. I can't sit here and tell you that. But I also couldn't tell you how the Dallas Cowboys are going to win in Philly last week either. I just, I'm one of those guys. I look at who was the ugliest team in the NFL last week. Okay, I'm going to get some extra points with them this week. I believe that seeing Philly on a Sunday night look pretty bad against the Dallas Cowboys, look like they're Super Bowl hungover, all that kind of stuff. I think that's pushed this line past that key number 7. And again, it's a back against the wall type of game for the Eagles. And I like taking teams in those spots. This is, to quote old Rudy Tomjanovich, it's the heart of a champion game right here. If they know if they go to 4-6, what kind of trouble they're in. So I think you're going to see the absolute best effort you can get out of the Philadelphia Eagles. I think you're going to see Doug Peterson pull out every single trick he has. I think they're going to be really prepared for this game. Now, can I tell you how they're going to slow down the Saints? No, I can't sit here and break down the film for you and tell you how it's going to happen. But I couldn't tell you how the Buffalo Bills were going to score 41 last week either, and that happened. So I'm taking the Eagles. I feel pretty good about it too. I think that again, I have faith in Doug Peterson and that championship pedigree they have, that they're going to give you your best effort they got all year.
There's much more to come on Inside the Numbers, the best of VSiN. The Follow the Money crew breaks down the best Monday night game of the year when we come back.
This is Inside the Numbers, the Pro Football Edition, the very best information from VSiN's hosts and guests on this week's biggest pro football games. You can listen to VSiN on SiriusXM Channel 204. Watch us online at vsin.com and follow us on Twitter at VSiN Live.
Well, the best time to bet anything is if the time is right for you at the number that you see up there. Parlays and teasers take a little more explaining, so I would try to get to the window as soon as possible. I wouldn't wait to the end when you're in line and there's 10 people ahead of you, then get to the front and actually go through 3 or 4 or 5 parlays from 6 to 8 teamers. Teaser bets, be a little bit more careful with, only because if you cross key numbers there and you don't utilize it, you're just simply wasting your money. The parlays, like everything else, have been this way since the beginning of time. If you're looking to bet the favorites, you want to bet them early in the week because that's when the line will come out. 80% of the time, the games usually go up near the end of the week. So if you're looking to bet the underdog, I would suggest, this is not every time, but most of the time you'll find a better bargain for your bet at the plus side near the end of the week.
So there's a couple of schools of thought here. The first school of thought is that you're better off not placing a parlay or a teaser altogether and just sticking to singles, because that's where the optimal value can be found. But what's the fun in that? We all love to bet parlays and bet teasers. It makes it betting more fun, betting more exciting. So the optimal time to be placing a parlay or a teaser is when you see a line that might be a little bit stale, or a line that hasn't moved as quickly as it needs to catch up with the market, because that's when you're going to create the optimal value for yourself as a bettor or a punter.
When you look at parlays, sometimes it's hard enough just to pick one winner, let alone multiple winners. But I think if you like favorites, you want to bet early because you're afraid that number might start to go up a little bit. If you're going to bet underdogs, maybe you wait a little bit to see how high that number goes, maybe to create some value. I think you're looking at key numbers, too. If you like a certain team, if it goes beyond 3, maybe you like the underdog. Below 3, maybe you like the favorite. When it comes to teasers, a lot of times you're looking maybe to tease that favorite down, who's, say, a 6 or 7 point favorite, to maybe pick or actually getting a point or two. And if you like an underdog, again, you're looking at some of those key numbers where you could maybe get over that 3, over that 6, over 7, or over any key numbers to kind of create some value. Again, it's hard enough to pick one, but if you like multiple games, I think that's the best approach.
Welcome back to Inside the Numbers, where you get the best insight from VSiN's experts on this weekend's biggest pro football games.
Welcome back to Inside the Numbers, the best of VSiN. What does a change of venue for the Monday night game mean to bettors? A lot. Mitch and Paulie talked about exactly that this week on Follow the Money.
How about the big news yesterday here? So the NFL finally decided, you know what, enough's enough with the stadium. It looks terrible. We've examined it. We've sent everybody out there that knows what they're doing here. Can't possibly play. And then good for the players to actually come out and say, I'm not, look at the field. I'm sorry, I'm not going to go out there and play.
Good for them.
Yeah, absolutely. To have power like that. So they moved it back to Los Angeles. In terms of betting what it means, well, know the house rules, I guess, because it is different basically everywhere. I thought it was going to be a refund. I just by assumption, I thought, okay, it's going to be a refund everywhere, right? Not the case. Not the case here at the South Point. It's action. If you already bet the Rams, you got a really good number. Same thing at the Golden Nugget per Tony Miller. So for we asked Nick Bogdanovich about this yesterday, Paul. The people that were betting that game, because the Rams were on the bottom part of that of the ticket, right? So they thought they just assumed the team was at home. Well, give me the Rams. They're only a point and they're at home against the Chiefs. Yeah, I'll bet them. He figured about 10 or 15% of the people betting this game would actually do that. You got a really good number now.
Good job by Mike Florio early in the day, who said, listen, you that garbage Deflategate business, you said the integrity of the game. Okay, this is integrity of the game and player safety, which you've never really cared about before. But you can't play this game. And good job for the players saying, oh, we're not. I mean, imagine. You got all these marquee players. I'm not sure. I'm not playing in this. Come on. The sod and the grass is moving. It wouldn't hold. And then once they came out and said, okay, we're going to put down new sod, but it might take a week or 6 days to hold. Look at those pictures that came out yesterday. We had them on Monday's show, but then, I don't. What's the league doing here? And then what you got to monitor this and follow up on it. They had the Shakira concert October 11th. Oh, that's so bad. Look at that. Oh, look away. And then you continue to have soccer matches, and there was a concert there last Wednesday. And it's just beat to shit. Horrendous.
Terrible job by the NFL. And by the way, this would be exhibit, like, I'm not even going to call it exhibit A. It's like example number 75. And they're never going to do this, but just stop the nonsense already, okay? The London games, I like them because they start at 6:30 Pacific time, so that's kind of cute, whatever. But to always force this down, hey, let's expand globally and get it a lot bigger. Did you see Todd Gurley's reaction, by the way, on Twitter right away? Smiley face emoji, like, I don't want to travel to Mexico for this stupid game.
Yeah.
Right? Other people were like, for these teams, oh, it sucks. I wanted to go meet our brothers and sisters from Mexico and yada, yada, yada. Okay, you're being Mr. Nice Guy there. You don't want to travel to Mexico for this game and play. Nothing against Mexico. I love it, but you're going to get out of your normal routine. Just play a home game.
Yeah. Well, and the NFL's got to do something about the fans, too. I mean, you put the travel.
As of last night, I didn't see anything right at taking.
Well, this is what, just.
No resolution.
It's total minor league what they do.
Of course it is.
Remember the Hall of Fame game?
Mm-hmm. Oh, my God. As bad as it gets.
But they waited to let the people come in and pay for parking and merchandise and refreshments.
Drinks.
They waited like 3 hours to cancel the game. Because you could tell the field was unplayable. It was a joke.
Yeah, remember how pissed off people were? Like,
sure.
I got here 4 hours ago for kickoff, and here I've spent money on buying my kid whatever. I've had 2 beers. We've had just like it's total nonsense.
People are driving in, and you can see they're not playing the game, and they still wouldn't announce it. No, let the people come in and park and get buy some T-shirts and stuff and the other business. So they did the right thing.
Well,
I don't know what took so long, but it's like when you see those pictures, it's like, come on, guys. And what were you doing? Peter King had it Monday morning about horrible conditions here with the field, and this might not happen. And then bam with the rules. So again, it depends where you go, as you pointed out. Tony Miller's rule is game must be played within 1 week of the original date. It's action here at the South Point. Other places no. Like John Murray said, it says the ticket says Mexico City, so that's a refund. And even like Chris, for example, if you bet Central Florida win total over, or no matter what, you got action. Even though the North Carolina game was canceled, you have action. Other places, refund. They got to play the 12 games.
A good example on a win total would be Nebraska. If you bet Nebraska under here, and their game was postponed earlier this season, almost every spot in this city, at least, will be like, nope, sorry, you got to play the exact amount of regular season games that were originally on your schedule. Not here. And if you have the under on Nebraska, that you got a huge break, gigantic break. First of all, that game's eliminated, and then they're bad anyway this season.
Well, I think they're making that up, but
well, you know what I'm saying. Originally from the get-go,
Yes.
Go back to a couple of years ago, So, and now they move the number to 3.5 and 64.
I like my prop even better. I think with Zerline, just going to touchback City, you're hardly going to have any punts. You probably get, just like the Saint game, minus $2. No defensive or special teams touchdown. What's the over-under in punts in this game?
Right. I actually want that prop. Will there be a punt? Can we get 0?
Yeah.
Or maybe a little bit of plus money. The Westgate,
no turnovers, no punts.
Yep.
Should be touchback City with the kickoffs.
So the Westgate, they're actually treating this game like a mini Super Bowl, generally for primetime games. And we don't get a lot of props in Las Vegas. So for those of you that have been using offshore for a long, long time, you've had a lot more over the years than people here in Las Vegas to bet on these games. But on the Thursday night, Sunday night, Monday night games, they'll come up with maybe 1 sheet of props. Did you see what the Westgate did already? They have like 4 sheets of props on the game for Monday night.
Yeah. Treat it like a mini Super Bowl playoff game. Exactly right. This is going to be a monster.
And the no defensive or special teams touchdown over there is minus 190.
Oh, there you go.
Yep.
Very good.
All
right.
So a little bit less than what you were hoping for.
Yeah. To me, it should be a lot higher.
Don't kick it to Tyreek Hill.
Wait, I just watched this with the Rams and the Saints. Yeah. Right. Don't do that. Touchback City. Use Greg the leg. Goff and Mahomes aren't going to turn it over. The only thing that we could be concerned about is if you're backed up and there's a strip sack.
Sure.
That's about it. No, or if I can't imagine it happens, but you got that horrendous Cam Newton decision on Thursday night.
Well, yeah, between those two guys, never say never, but or a pass in the flat, like you said, when you're pinned inside your own 20, somebody comes ball hawking, flying in, ball goes flying out at that point. There's a fumble and take it back. I don't know. I think it's probably a good bet as well.
Yeah. Well, good Tuesday, as Adam Schefter tweeted. Yeah, that news, and then Bell calls it quits. All right, I'm not showing up. That's it. I'll talk to you next. I'll never play for the Steelers again. And that's the end of that. And the people who still took him top 5 in fantasy.
Ouch.
Oh, my God. An all-timer for Paul Charchi in the morning.
In the biggest league that I'm in, he went number 1 overall.
Oh.
Number 1 overall. Imagine this, because I'm sitting at number 3 in that draft, and I'm going back and forth. I'm figuring that Bell and Gurley are going to go 1, 2 in some order. This is before Labor Day, so go back in your timeline, in your head here for a second. I'm going in my head, do I want Zeke? Do I want Kamara? Who do I want? Then Bell goes 1. Zeke goes 2. Gurley falls into my lap at number 3. I mean, it's total luck.
Yep.
It's pure luck that happened.
Mm-hmm. He's going to make a ton of money, and only probably 30, 40 million guaranteed. He walks away from 14 million this year. He was concerned they were going to pull a DeMarco Murray on him, that they knew he was gone. They were going to run him into the ground.
Yeah, here's 400 touches. Good luck staying healthy.
Listen, you keep hearing about how it's a business. Okay, it's a business. So he made a business decision, and he was tired of the Steelers tagging him. He said, I want to be a free agent. I'm going to hit the open market, and there are people who think he'll get more than Gurley.
Yep. There is an offshore market, by the way, that you can bet on where Le'Veon Bell's going to play his first game next year. A bunch of teams make sense with the money and how good they can be with him. The Jets are going to have a ton of money, and that makes sense because of the market, obviously, the number 1 market over there. The Colts make sense because they're going to have a ton of cash. You can go there and now look at this offensive line suddenly that they have, and to play with Andrew Luck. Looks like the Raiders are going to have a lot of money. I don't know why he would sign with Oakland at this point. And the Texans might be in play as well.
That sounds good, too.
How would you like that addition if they have the money to make that work?
Yeah, I'd give him a ton of money.
Uh-huh.
Yes. Because I don't think this will backfire at all. Number 1, I still think he'll get paid. And number 2, you said, well, it's only going to help him taking a year off. Like the guy was sitting around. Although it was weird how he handled it. Like, all right, no word. Don't hear from anybody. Then he's in Miami working out. Then he shows up. He's at a gym in Pittsburgh.
He's playing a pickup game of basketball.
And then the week before he's supposed to report, he's in Pittsburgh. So the whole thing was weird how that worked out. But so I'm not concerned that he took a year off. It's like, okay, he'll be refreshed, energized, ready to go.
And you know somebody's going to absolutely. You're right. He might get more than Gurley. They will break the bank for him. Some team.
Mike Florio's adamant he can get more. He'll get more than Gurley because Gurley still had 2 years left on his deal. He's hitting the open market.
Isn't it amazing, though, what it tells you about the overall, in certain situations? Like Le'Veon Bell's really good, but what they can actually mean to the team and what they are worth to an individual team, if that team actually has good structure, a good front office, they know what they're doing. They had James Conner in place. Look at the season James Conner's having. That's not going to be the same thing every spot that you go. Clearly, I'll give you an example. When the Vikings had Adrian Peterson, right? How valuable was he to that team? When the Chargers had LaDainian Tomlinson 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And he's running, he's scoring 30 touchdowns in that 1 year.
Well, Peterson couldn't catch the ball. This guy's dangerous out of the backfield, too. And they got to give Tomlin a lot of credit. Roethlisberger. I mean, I'm not talking about the guy. He's not here. Connor's doing a good job, and they're going to win the division.
Yeah.
And they didn't let it distract them, and they didn't have to, and it didn't affect their season. Slow start, but still, they're going to win the division.
So, if your eyes really, truly did not deceive you like a week and a half ago, you saw the Steelers still at plus $1.70-ish to win that division?
And then it moved.
It moved?
Yeah, someone must have bet it, and then the A.J. Green news came down. And now they're, I don't know, what, $5 now?
I think they're minus 525, 550 area.
That was a week ago.
Yeah.
Wow, look at that. That looks good. And then I looked, then we came in the next morning, and it was minus 170 or minus 180.
That was before the Carolina game.
Yeah.
Still, looking back right now, I mean, that's minus 170 with a home game against Carolina.
I know. Carolina took money. But the A.J. Green news came down around the same time, though, as well.
Right.
That also helped out.
Can we go back in time on this one for a second here? Knowing what we know now, they're actually going to add Hugh Jackson to the coaching staff. That, the Green news. Oh, by the way, Cincinnati still that we're talking about here. They're going to allow 1,500 yards in a 3-game span. That's fun. Any thoughts, by the way, on the Rams-Chiefs game? 3.5 now? I don't think the home field means anything to the Rams.
That's too many points.
It is.
The way the defense is playing, and the Chiefs have done a better. The Chiefs have actually improved on defense. The Rams are getting worse, and they can't get any stop. Now, good pass rush, and Donald's wreaking havoc. But other than that, what do you think's going to? And you have the Peters angle too. I mean, they know school's out on this guy. Just target him, Hunt Peters.
Yeah.
But they have to get Talib back in the worst way.
Big time.
And you could say, well, this could be the game where, McVay doesn't fall in love with the pass. It's just a heavy dose of Gurley. and the Chiefs can't stop the run. This could be the game. All right, it's long drives, gashing them on the ground, and you don't see Mahomes doesn't get a lot of time on it. But even that happened in the New England game, where part of their game plan was to play keep away. And Mahomes was fantastic in that game, and it's a 3-point game.
Yeah. I'm still befuddled overall at how this transpired for the NFL. Like, you never got in front of this a month or so ago. And good for the people that actually started to tweet these pictures out. So it was making the rounds, and we're like, oh, boy, something's going to have to happen here. And then the players put their foot down. Think about how bad the stadium was in Mexico, because the league now was forced to move this game to a city in which is burning down. Like, L.A. is burning down. Malibu is just like, homes are still engulfed in flames, right? I think I saw last night like 30% of the fire was actually contained.
Goodell should have been fired years ago. Absolutely. And I'm sick of this, how he gets credit for negotiating the TV contract. I mean, a high school intern could do that.
Yep.
It's a joke. He should have been fired after Deflategate. He should have been fired for Bountygate. He should have been fired for the Ray Rice situation.
The whole
concussion,
alone, yeah.
The whole concussion debacle. Mm-hmm. I mean, over and over and over again. I mean, the Hall of Fame, I guess that wasn't all on him. You could say Baker, too, a Hall of Fame game. But there's so many examples. It's like, what are you doing here? Where's your And then when something bad happens, he just disappears for a year.
Disappears. Yep.
Can't get a hold of him.
I'm not going to talk to anybody. I'm not going to go to games. I'm going to hide my
I mean, the Ray Rice is just hit. Come on.
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't see the tape. You're lying. I mean, you lie all the time.
Had no idea the tape existed. Nobody ever called us. Meanwhile, voicemails were left, et cetera, the whole thing. You knew the entire time. You're exactly right.
1 hour down, one more to go on Inside the Numbers. Next, the Westgate's John Murray joins the legend Brent Musburger and his guys in the desert to go over the static lines for this week's Super Contest.
This is Inside the Numbers, the Pro Football Edition, the very best information from VSiN's hosts and guests on this week's biggest pro football games. You can listen to VSiN on SiriusXM Channel 204. Watch us online at vsin.com and follow us on Twitter at VSiN Live.
As Uncle Brent always says, cash and tickets is what it's all about. And that's what every issue of Point Spread Weekly is about, too, because VSiN wants to make you a better handicapper. Not just today or tomorrow, not this week or next week, but for months and for years to come. And now is your time to subscribe. We have a special limited time offer. We're halfway through the football season, more than halfway through. You can get Point Spread Weekly and full access to everything we do for just $99 through the Super Bowl. It includes our 24/7 live video, replays of our shows, our special guides, plus our online exclusives. This week's episode, 118 pages of Point Spread Weekly. Steve Mackinnon explains his 3 sets of strength ratings. Matt Humans has pro and college football games to watch. Dave Tooley takes on the weekend football schedule. Hoops Peterson is back. He'll talk about college basketball teams that will cover big spreads, NBA, NHL, NASCAR, CFL, golf, and more. The full package through the Super Bowl, $99. Go to vsin.com/subscribe to find the package that makes sense for you.
If you didn't catch VSiN last week, here's some of what you missed.
Amal Shaw couldn't be here because he was last seen at the Long Bar downtown at the D. Tell us about that.
Yeah, Thursday after we were on, Josh Towers and Amal showed up about 6 o'clock down there, and Josh hung out for an hour and a half. He was with a buddy. Amal was there 4 hours. 4 hours. And what a fascinating guy. Huh? I enjoyed it was. We talked for hours. I said, Derek, we might set a record in November Long Bar revenue. I mean, we're off to a flying start with 4 comped waters. He's going to let me read his new book, the first copy, before he puts it out. It's fascinating, though. It's called How to Live Comfortably on 11 Hours a Week at VSiN. It's a sharp guy. I mean, there's no wasted energy here. He's in his car by 4:58 every night. I mean, it's unreal.
Can you tell us over at William Hill how bad the NFL was this weekend?
Trust me, we led the way. It was just a bad Sunday. The scary thing is we had a miracle game last night, so there was a ton of liability going to the Cowboys, but the Titans came through, so helped soften the blow. But yeah, Sunday was the worst Sunday. Well, it was the worst day period in the calendar year 2018. That's for sure.
Okay. Did the Sunday night game have any impact on how the day was going to go? Or was it both teams are so, public friendly that it didn't matter which the result was going to be anyway?
That's correct. I mean, New England was worse than Green Bay, but Green Bay was still a big loser. Going under saved a little, and the spread going 14 helped kill some Green Bay teasers. Yeah, but at that point, the damage had been done.
What was worse early, the Bears or the Chiefs?
Oh, by far the Chiefs. I mean, The Chiefs drew so much money. It was silly. I mean, the public had won the week before, and the handle Sunday was through the roof for whatever reason. I'm assuming just because he had extra money, but it was crazy handle on Sunday, and it was, you got those bye weeks, it's short, and but the amount of money that rolled in on the Chiefs was frightening.
Welcome back to Inside the Numbers, where you get the best insight from VSiN's experts on this weekend's biggest pro football games.
Every Wednesday, the Westgate Superbook releases lines for the largest football betting contest in the country. Just like he does each and every week, the Westgate's John Murray joined Brent Musburger and his guys in the desert to go over the lines for this week's games.
All right, guys, Vinny Mariulo and Amal Shaw here with me, and we're going to go immediately to the Superbook over at the Westgate because today we reveal the lines for Week 11 for the Super Contest and the Super Contest Gold. That means we bring in the big man, Big John Murray, one of the directors over there, does a terrific job with the rest of the bookies over at the Superbook. John, rather than starting with Thursday night, though, because Ron Flatter queued it up, I am going to jump to the 4-5-5 rotation game. The Cincinnati Bengals and the Baltimore Ravens off the board around town because no one knows whether or not Joe Flacco is going to be the Ravens quarterback. But in the contest, you've got to come up with a number on the Bengals and the Ravens. So, John, what did you put for the contest number?
Brent, we made the Ravens minus 6.5 in that game. We think Joe Flacco is going to end up playing. And you got to go with a pretty high number here after the Bengals' performance last Sunday. They got crushed by the Saints.
Exactly. So 6.5 on the Ravens, and our guys in the desert over at the Westgate think that Joe Flacco will be the quarterback. Coach John Harbaugh saying if you didn't catch that update, Joe Flacco does not have to practice to play. Carolina goes into Detroit. The Lions are reeling right now. So how much are the Panthers favored here?
Carolina, a 4-point favorite at Detroit. Carolina reeling a little bit themselves. They were blown out last Thursday night by the Steelers, but they do get 3 extra days to prepare for this game.
As Coach said, S happens, and you know what that is, Mr. Rivera. And the Dallas Cowboys coming off their most impressive win of the season in Philadelphia. They continue on the road. The Falcons were embarrassed a bit on their road trip up to Ohio to play Cleveland. So what do we have? Dallas at Atlanta.
Atlanta, a 3.5-point favorite at home, despite losing last week to the Cleveland Browns.
Thank you very much, John. You gave me the Cleveland Browns, by the way, on my 3-1-1 staying alive week. And I'm going to skip the primetime game, and I'm going to jump to some other early starts. Let's go to the AFC South, the most underrated division. It's certainly in the AFC. The Tennessee Titans go into Indianapolis to play Andrew Luck and the Colts. That's an early starting game. What do we have on the Titans and the Colts?
Made the Colts a 2-point favorite at home. I think Tennessee's going to be a popular pick, though. They coming off of a big win against the New England Patriots on Sunday. Although the Colts are playing a lot better themselves. These are two teams that really upgraded their head coach position in the offseason.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And let's go to another team in the AFC South that we overlooked. We put away back in September, and suddenly nobody can beat the Houston Texans. And they go in to play the Washington Redskins, who have lost 3 starters in their offensive line. Texans, Redskins.
Texans a 3-point favorite on the road against the Redskins. You don't want to be playing the Texans with that defensive line when you're down 3 offensive line starters. It's a tough matchup for Washington.
And you follow the Redskins very carefully, I should point out to everybody out there. So when he says something about the Redskins, you all out there pay attention. All right, Tampa Bay going to stick with Fitzmagic. They're not going to change. They're not going to go back to Jameis Winston. I think Fitzmagic threw for about 405 yards, no touchdowns in a losing effort. I know I lost on that game. But the Buccaneers go up to play the red-hot New York Giants. What do we have on that game?
Yeah, the Giants, they've won 1 in a row, and they're laying 1.5 points at home against Tampa Bay. Now, the Giants don't want to win too many games, though, Brent. They don't want to play their way out of a top draft choice.
That is for sure. Now, those are the early games, and let me start with Vinny and Amal. Anything surprise you here so far, Vinny, and what you've heard from John for the contest?
No, I think the guys did a good job, Brent, obviously, and being mindful also of some of the early week line moves. Did have a question for John. John, and you made a comment about the Thursday night game this week. Moving forward, this is week 11. Do you see typically more Thursday night action in the contest in this the last quarter of the season? Or last third of the season?
Other than next week, no, not really. I mean, certainly we'll see a lot of Thursday action next week with the 3 Thanksgiving games.
Right.
But no, people are always hesitant to use the Thursday games, Vinny. Having to put in all 5 of your plays on Thursday afternoon, that can make things very challenging, especially when the rest of the field has essentially 2 extra days to look at line moves and injuries and other variables. You really got to like that Thursday night game to use it in the Super Contest.
Agreed. And then the only other thing before Amal chimes in here, the Ravens, I do agree. I think I agree with the guys over there, Brent. It looks like Flacco. I would make him a favorite to play, and this number of 6.5 in the contest speaks to that. Amal?
Well, then my question is to both of you. How do you guys come up with the Ravens at 6.5? Was Josh Towers in the room when making this decision? This is a team that's lost 3 in a row. They've lost 4 out of 5. Once again, last year, I said it before, 9 wins, only 1 against a team over 500. They beat the Steelers earlier this year when they were in disarray. They went down to Tennessee, dominated, but the Titans have improved since then. I don't get the admiration and the love for this Ravens team. I understand that the Bengals got blown out last week, but you guys are going to have to explain to me why the Ravens are 6.5 being under 500 against a division rival.
For me personally, it's not admiration for the Ravens. It's a play against the Bengals.
Fair enough.
John?
Amal, you just took a shot at the Superbook staff, the Baltimore Ravens, and Josh Towers all in one rant.
That's what I do.
That's coming in hot, man. No, look, our look-ahead line on this game was 5.5, and then the Bengals went out and laid a complete egg against the New Orleans Saints. See a slight bump up to 6.5 here. We don't think much of the Bengals. I agree with Vinny completely. It's got less to do with the Ravens. It's got everything to do with the Bengals.
As someone who enters the contest, I will tell you, Amal, I'm not even thinking of the Bengals with 6.5 unless Lamar Jackson is a quarterback. Then I will consider it. But if the guys over there are right and Joe Flacco's going, I wouldn't touch the Bengals at 6.5. You got to go to 7 at least before I would think about it. That team allows 5 miles of offense every time they play them. Anybody. I think the Raiders could score a touchdown against that defense.
Brent, let's not go crazy, Brent. Okay.
Hold on.
With the exception of the Colts game, they're averaging 5.5 points in the previous other 4 games.
Okay. John, because I jumped all over the let me run through the numbers that you have just given me. And we've got the Seattle Seahawks. And again, if you just tuned in or you just started streaming it, what numbers are we giving? These are the Westgate Super Contest lines for Week 11. They're static. They don't change regardless of what changes at the window. The Seahawks, 2.5 at home against the Packers. The Carolina Panthers go back on the road again. They will be in Detroit, and the Panthers are favored by 4. The Atlanta Falcons return home, limping back from Cleveland, and the Dallas Cowboys coming off their most impressive win of the year. The Falcons favored by 3.5 in the Super Contest. The Ravens, as you heard Amal Shaw climb to the ceiling over this, the Ravens are 6.5 better than the Bengals. And the Indianapolis Colts, in a battle of a couple of teams that have surprised a lot of folks, Tennessee and Indianapolis, and the Colts, Andrew Luck favored by 2.5. at home. Houston will be favored up at John Murray's Washington Redskins. They'll be favored by 3. Texans favored by 3 over the Skins. And the New York Giants are a 1.5-point favorite over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Oh, man, what a one-game winning streak will do for a franchise. Okay, we're going to come back with John. Some big games are still left for the Super Contest Week 11.
As you can tell, we're not quite done with the Super Contest just yet. More Murray and Musburger on the other side.
This is Inside the Numbers, the Pro Football Edition, the very best information from VSiN's hosts and guests on this week's biggest pro football games. You can listen to VSiN on SiriusXM Channel 204. Watch us online at vsin.com and follow us on Twitter at VSiN Live.
As Uncle Brent always says, cash and tickets is what it's all about. And that's what every issue of Point Spread Weekly is about, too, because VSiN wants to make you a better handicapper, not just today or tomorrow, not this week or next week, but for months and for years to come. And now is your time to subscribe. We have a special limited time offer. We're halfway through the football season, more than halfway through. You can get Point Spread Weekly and full access to everything we do for just $99 through the Super Bowl. It includes our 24/7 live video, replays of our shows, our special guides, plus our online exclusives. This week's episode, 118 pages of Point Spread Weekly. Steve Mackinnon explains his 3 sets of strength ratings. Matt Humans has pro and college football games to watch. Dave Tooley takes on the weekend football schedule. Hoops Peterson is back. He'll talk about college basketball teams that will cover big spreads, NBA, NHL, NASCAR, CFL, golf, and more. The full package through the Super Bowl, $99. Go to vsin.com/subscribe to find the package that makes sense for you.
Chris Andrews, the South Point Hotel Casino sportsbook director, kind enough to join us on the phone this morning. Chrissy, I leave you with this. I know you started by saying, hey, look, everybody's got their own problems. Let's not talk about mine. But could you just briefly, for those who don't know, briefly share why it is that we're having this blood drive on Monday here and why that is so personal to you, what you've been going through?
Well, it is extremely personal to me. You know, they were asking me, they were going through my records, how many transfusions have you had? Man, I don't know. I mean, it's got to be well over 20. Yeah, my wife's saying it's a lot more than that, so it is. But without them, I would be dead. And it's one of those things where the disease I have, I'm not producing enough red blood cells. So, so it is very personal to me. And it is one of those things, when I was a younger man, I used to go and donate blood myself until I discovered that I had, anemia, and I didn't really know the cause until about a year or so ago. But it's something that's really, really important, and you can see all the devastating fires and all the, just all the incidents that happen here in America and really around the world, that people need blood on occasion. And it's one of those things where, if you can come and donate, it's not that difficult to do. Usually you sit down in a chair. It takes, probably less than an hour, and they give you some orange juice and a couple cookies and that sort of thing. And it's not a horrible experience, and you're really doing something for your fellow man. And, and like I said, without it, I'd have been long gone, man. I really would have been. But, so it is something that means quite a bit to me. And if something were to happen where they ran out of blood for some reason or another, well, I'd be in pretty big trouble. I can tell you that.
God forbid. November 19th, Monday, this coming Monday here at the South Point from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. In the Brunswick Room, we will have a blood drive. Everybody can come in and donate blood. I know I will. Everybody here will. And for folks who are not in Vegas, www.redcross.org. You can click the Give Blood tab to learn where to donate near you. We hope you'll join us in honoring Chrissy and helping the more than 4.5 million Americans who need donated blood each and every year.
Welcome back to Inside the Numbers, where you get the best insight from VSiN's experts on this weekend's biggest pro football games.
Back to the Super Contest we go, and the rest of this week's static lines for the most popular betting contest in the country.
All right, it is Super Contest Wednesday. We're speaking with John Murray. He's over at the Westgate Superbook. director over there. Those fellows do a terrific job. I overlooked one of the early starting games because of the flexing that was going on with NBC. And John, Vinny, and Amal, I want to tell you a brief anecdote before I ask John about the Steelers. After practice today, multiple members of the Steelers raided Le'Veon Bell's locker. He didn't report, but his locker was still full of gear, okay? They took his nameplate off the stall. Then they divvied up the items they found in the locker. And ESPN's Jeremy Fowler has posted this video. Linebacker Bud Dupree thanks Le'Veon Bell for his Jordan brand cleats before putting one of the shoes on. So I don't think we're going to be seeing Le'Veon Bell again, Big John, in the Steelers' locker room. They'll go without him down at Jacksonville, and they got a couple of bad memories last season when they took on the Jaguars. But this one is in Florida. Early start. This was flexed to early off of prime time. What do we have with the Steelers and the Jaguars?
Yeah, they flexed this one out of the Sunday night game, and I can see why with the way Jacksonville's playing. Steelers going to be a 5.5-point road favorite here, even without Le'Veon Bell.
Okay, so that is the last of our early games. Now, some of the late games, one they pushed till late, and with good reason. There are going to be a lot of eyeballs on the Super Bowl champs, the Philadelphia Eagles, now desperate this year. They go down to New Orleans, and there's a whole lot of folks looking for a number on the Saints to win the Super Bowl the way they're going. Eagles in the Big Easy. What do we have?
Saints an 8.5-point favorite at home against the defending world champions who need a win. Eagles really have their backs to the wall here. If the Redskins beat the Houston Texans and the Eagles lose, the Redskins are going to have a 3-game lead in that division over the Eagles.
John, that's the first surprising number that I've seen at 8.5. Is that what it is at the windows? I know it opened about 7.5 in Las Vegas. Or do you think that the money's going to come pounding in on the Saints?
We opened at 7, Brent, but that was before the Sunday night game. That was before the Eagles lost to the Cowboys as a touchdown favorite. Here at the book, we're dealing it at 8. And I definitely think the money is going to come in big time on New Orleans, especially in teaser bets and moneyline parlays. I would imagine Vinny and the South Point, they'll be doing with the same thing on Sunday.
That's where it's trending, Brent. Yep, 7.5 to 8 as we speak. So I can see that number following suit there.
Okay, now let's go to the red-hot Los Angeles Chargers, who have not been home in Carson, the StubHub Center, for some time, but they just keep winning, whether it's in London or Seattle or Oakland, and now they go home to host the Denver Broncos. What do we have on the Chargers-Broncos?
Chargers a 7-point favorite at home against Denver. I thought Amal brought up an interesting point yesterday when I was in studio. Chargers could still get back into that AFC home field playoff race. They're right behind Kansas City in the AFC West.
Amal?
Yeah, I think this Chargers team, they get Bosa. He's back practicing now. This is a different team. This, from a super contest standpoint, Brent, I think the number is spot on. I'm going to pass on this one.
Yeah, I would give it, obviously. I don't think I'd take it with the Broncos on the road. I would think about it a little bit. And the one that of course, I'm interested in, obviously, because I will be there in Glendale, Arizona, the Arizona Cardinals hosting the Oakland Raiders, John. And what do we have on the contest as far as the number is concerned?
Made the Cardinals a 5.5-point favorite here, Brent. We had the number a little bit lower this morning, but Jeff Sherman and I got to talk, and we both agreed the Raiders don't want to win this game. They don't want to win any games. The worst thing the Raiders could do is win a game against another team with a bad record, maybe cost themselves that first overall draft choice.
So that takes me to Tankapalooza. And as an organization, I can see where people are coming from, and I get it. They want to protect the number one. But I'm going to tell you, I've been around a lot of professional athletes, and I never, ever have been around one who thought, we should lose this game. They're getting paid. There's jobs on the line. So I understand what people are saying. Believe me, okay? We go through it in the NBA. But I just want to make everybody perfectly clear. that John's not talking about the athletes. He's talking about the organization here. And listen, the Cardinals have a better running back situation. They've got a future Hall of Famer at wide receiver. Now, whether or not the young quarterback, Amal, can stay away from throwing a couple of interceptions, even though the Raiders have not been a good takeaway team on defense. But that is probably the big issue in this game would be Josh Rosen.
Completely agree with you. I just want to go back briefly to the point you mentioned about tanking. I always find that offensive because you question people's integrity in terms of effort. Second of all, professional athletes, they're not only trying to do their best to maintain the job. Keep one thing in mind. In the NFL, you are week to week. You may have a contract, but you could be released. You're trying to put stuff on tape for another team. In terms of Rosen, he's got to get away from the turnovers. I think the one advantage in this matchup, Brent, is we've seen the Raiders offense struggle. Arizona defensively is not a bad team. They're not a great team. And I think that'll help him a little bit in this particular matchup. I expect Fitzgerald and Christian Kirk to be able to have a pretty good day.
Okay. And now, John, we have got two terrific prime time games over the weekend. Actually, must-see television, I think, for both of these games. Let's go to the one that NBC flexed in from Sunday night, and it's the NFC North. The Minnesota Vikings go into Soldier Field to play the Chicago Bears. What have we done with this one?
The Bears, a 2.5-point favorite at home against the Minnesota Vikings. This game could go a long way to deciding the NFC North champion this season.
Amal, that's interesting because much of the time around town, is it still 3 here at the South Point?
Went down to 2.5. So
it did. So
trending that way, yeah.
It is trending
yes, sir.
down that way.
Yep.
Amal, your feeling about Vikings-Bears?
I like the Vikings in this spot. This is one of my teams before the season. I'm going to continue with this. They had a couple of tough losses throughout the year, but I like how good this team is. They're coming off a bye, Brent. I think Thielen and Diggs getting healthy, I think they'll be able to take advantage of that. Trubisky, look, let's be real here for a minute. He has done an effective job, but I don't think anyone is overly confident that he's the guy to lead them past these types of teams.
Well, we just talked about the quarterback matchup between the Raiders and Arizona, which is certainly a different level of teams, but it's probably going to come down to the same aspect in this game as well.
Okay, so there we have it. 2.5, Bears at home, favorite over the Vikings. Now we go to the Monday night game, which has been moved out of Mexico City because of the horrible field conditions down there at Azteca Stadium. It will be played in the Los Angeles Coliseum. 5:15 Los Angeles time is the start time. And what do we have in the contest, John, on the Kansas City Chiefs and the Los Angeles Rams?
We had to go with the Rams minus 3.5. It was a pretty easy number to make. That's a pretty market number here. The Vikings-Bears game, we felt like if we used 3, there'd be too much action on the Vikings plus 3. But this one was a little bit easier, 3.5 for the Chiefs and the Rams.
Both of these games, I think, will see quite a bit of action in the contest, especially the Chiefs and the Rams, Brent, because they'll be the two heaviest wagered games of the weekend off the board for certain.
Brent, I just want to ask John real quickly, was there a thought at all making this line 3 just simply because of the popularity of both sides?
For the Super Contest?
Yeah.
No, we never really talked about using anything other than 3.5 in the Monday night game, Amal.
So there we have it. That will be 3.5. John, run through the entire lineup, and then I have a couple of other questions, and the guys probably have something for you too. So go ahead through this is Week 11 over at the Westgate. Super Contest static line out on Wednesday.
You got it. Seattle, a 2.5-point favorite. That's tomorrow night at home against the Green Bay Packers. The Carolina Panthers laying 4 on the road in Detroit against the Lions. Atlanta, a 3.5-point favorite at home against the Dallas Cowboys. The Baltimore Ravens, we expect Joe Flacco to be at quarterback. They're laying 6.5 to the Cincinnati Bengals. Chicago Bears, a 2.5-point favorite against the Minnesota Vikings. That's the game that's been flexed to the Sunday night game. New Orleans giving 8.5 at home to the defending champion Philadelphia Eagles. The Colts, a 2-point favorite in Indianapolis against the Tennessee Titans. Houston Texans on a 6-game winning streak, laying 3 at the Washington Redskins. The Giants on a 1-game winning streak are giving 1.5 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That game's in New Jersey. Chargers, a 7-point favorite at home against the Denver Broncos. The Arizona Cardinals, a 5.5-point favorite against the Oakland Raiders. The Steelers giving 5.5 in Jacksonville. And the Monday night game, the LA Rams minus 3.5 in LA against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay, John, talking about flexing, and I don't believe that the league has announced this, but they will. I want to give you fellas over there and Vinny a heads up on a couple of games that NBC is going to be doing in prime time. They are flexing out of games in Seattle and Oakland. The one in Oakland would have involved the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the games that they are going to put up will be the Los Angeles Chargers at Pittsburgh, Week 13. That's going to be a prime time Sunday night game. Week 14, which would have been in Oakland, will now be the Los Angeles Rams at the Chicago Bears. So two terrific football games are ahead of us in prime time. As most of you realize, ratings are up, and so those are a couple of good games, John, going forward on Sunday nights in Week 13 and 14.
Yeah, Rams-Bears should be a great game, Brett. And it says a lot about the Chicago Bears. They've had two home games flexed into the Sunday night game.
Yeah,
it says a lot about how the Bears are doing this year.
Yeah, and again, Jim Miller, former quarterback, who is one of the few people I know who's really watched Trubisky from a scouting standpoint this year. And he has said that we are all underrating Trubisky as a passer. We all know he can run and do it on the move. But he thinks the young man has turned the corner. Now, to Amal's point, we're going to find out because the Vikings can be pretty good on defense. So we'll see how Mr. Trubisky fares in that game. Now, Mr. Murray's been keeping me alive, okay? VSIN 1 is still very much in the thick of this battle going forward, and I always love when he gives me one. He and the guys over there talk about it, and they come up and they give me a team. And, John, who do I have from the Superbook guys to put in on the entry for VSIN 1?
Yeah, Brent, we talk about it, but they make me trot out here and deliver it to you. You know, it's a one-man
You can name names, John. Go ahead. You can name names. Go ahead.
No, I would never going to name names. Now, we discussed a little bit. We had a little back and forth. We're going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles plus 8.5. That's a game that the house is going to need big time, too. So we'll be rooting for you extra on Sunday afternoon, Brent.
I like it a lot. That was the one line that jumped off the page at me, to tell you the truth. I thought it would be down more closer to 7. 8.5, I love that. So the Eagles are my first pick. I was tempted, John, to send us in on Thursday, but I did that once this year and did not have a good week. So I'll probably wait because the Joe Flacco situation does intrigue me.
When we come back, it's a football free-for-all on the numbers game. Warren Sharp joins Gil Alexander to break down this weekend's NFL action.
This is Inside the Numbers, the Pro Football Edition, the very best information from VSIN's hosts and guests on this week's biggest pro football games. You can listen to VSIN on SiriusXM Channel 204. Watch us online at vsin.com and follow us on Twitter at VSIN Live.
As Uncle Brent always says, cash and tickets is what it's all about. And that's what every issue of Point Spread Weekly is about, too, because VSIN wants to make you a better handicapper. Not just today or tomorrow, not this week or next week, but for months and for years to come. And now is your time to subscribe. We have a special limited time offer. We're halfway through the football season, more than halfway through. You can get Point Spread Weekly and full access to everything we do for just $99 through the Super Bowl. It includes our 24/7 live video, replays of our shows, our special guides, plus our online exclusives. This week's episode, 118 pages of Point Spread Weekly. Steve Mackinnon explains his 3 sets of strength ratings. Matt Humans has pro and college football games to watch. Dave Tooley takes on the weekend football schedule. Hoops Peterson is back. He'll talk about college basketball teams that will cover big spreads, NBA, NHL, NASCAR, CFL, golf, and more. The full package through the Super Bowl, $99. Go to vsin.com/subscribe to find the package that makes sense for you.
If you didn't catch VSIN last week, here's some of what you missed.
Here's a guy, he comes to the counter. He has a 10-teamer. He got 9 in to the Eagles. A $5 ticket pays like $4,000. So naturally, that's a big score, $5 bet. And he said, Jimmy, what can I do? I said, nothing. He says, can you hold the ticket and make the bet the other side? I said, listen. I said, Jimmy will be in jail and you'll be out of here. I said, the reason we can't ever do that is very simple. From gaming control and all the laws that are written here in Nevada, we can't hold your money for you. Correct. It's like a what-if bet. Like people say, well, they do it back east. They say, well, that's the illegal bookmakers. They can do what they want to do. But if you come to the counter and said, give me the Patriots early. If I win that game, bet it on the Cardinals late, something like that. We cannot do that.
It's too bad you weren't living here at the time, because who knows what you would have walked away with. So years ago, my ex wins millions of dollars.
Are you going to tell the story?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, yeah, sure.
All right.
It works. And I fall asleep. She goes, I'm going to go gamble, get you some lunch, and we'll see what happens. I go, okay, I'll see you when you get home. And I fall asleep on the couch. It's a Friday. I wake up, I got 50 missed calls. 50. It's like, you won't believe this. I just won. Well, it's over $5 billion. We'll just leave it at that.
Derek Stevens, who's been on air many times, who owns the D, right? Well, if Derek Stevens is hedging something, my answer is probably going to be different than if the casual $20 bettor is hedging something. Right. Is this a life? In other words, hedging has become such a cottage industry by blowhards on Twitter. Like, oh, yes, how you hedge this? You got to do this. Do you really? Most of the time? Like, is this most of the time when people are asking, I'm like, do you really need to lock in $20 here? Maybe you do. I don't want to make a judgment about it. Maybe you do. If you do, my answer is different than if you're like, oh, yeah, I guess I could lose that $20.
All right, John, let's get you out of here on this. Of course, we ask you every single time, what would you like to lock in before you get out of here?
To lock it in. Last week I locked in the Broncos, and they were right there for the push, and their coach decided to play for a 51-yard field goal, John.
Oh, Vance Joseph got
awesome.
you on that one.
So what are you looking at today?
You know what? Let me go with my Brownies, John. I'll go with the Brownies. They're plus 5.5 here. I think this line's crazy. Our look-ahead number on this game was Falcons -1. I think this number is an overreaction to the Falcons win last week and the Browns loss. I'll take the 5.5.
Welcome back to Inside the Numbers, where you get the best insight from VSiN's experts on this weekend's biggest pro football games.
Welcome back to Inside the Numbers, the best of VSiN. Every week on a numbers game, Warren Sharp usually has a bone to pick with some coach in the league. This week, it was more than just one.
So much also interesting in the NFL. Evan Silva, who used to be on the Football Free-for-All, but is currently in the middle of the lat pulls right now, can't be on the show this morning. He was mentioning, Warren, that he was talking about so much discussion between the haves and have-nots this year. We've talked about it on a numbers game, and how he really puts it right on coaches. And you chimed in with a tweet about that as well. Jorge, if we could flash that up at VSiN.com, the VSiN app, and at Fubo TV. And you chimed in and you really corroborated it. What was your the angle you took on it?
Are you talking about the personnel grouping?
No, this was where you were talking about how coaches are making excuses. Right, coaches are making excuses for personnel not acquired. Let's say. Do you recall that?
What was the? I ripped them so many times. Do you know what the tweet exactly said?
Yeah, let me put it up right here. There it is on the screen. You said the best teams are turning over every stone to get better, be it acquiring players, coaching edges, analytics, etc. The worst have coaches saving their own hide, pointing fingers, quote, I really wanted Wentz or Watson, unquote, and cannot compensate for bad personnel decision-making. Huge divide. Care to pinpoint the ones at the bottom that you're thinking of?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's definitely a number of teams that I feel like, look at Hugh Jackson, for instance. Okay, Hugh Jackson was on the hot seat. He had won one game in 2 years. And is this going to be a guy who's suddenly going to turn to analytics in year 3 and try to make optimal decisions with things that he doesn't really understand that much? No. He's going to try to save his butt, blame other people. Oh, I wanted, Sashi was the real problem. I really wanted this other player in the draft and, make all these excuses for himself. Meanwhile, look what happens. To get rid of him, they actually implement an offense from a guy, mind you, who has never called plays in the NFL, who has never game planned himself for the NFL. Freddie Kitchens, who worked under Bruce Arians out in Arizona with the Cardinals, comes in and he starts implementing more of the style of offense that Bruce Arians called, which is run when they think we're going to pass when they think we're going to run, attack more down the field with bigger explosive plays, and run the ball on, the more opportune times to run the ball. Throw a lot of passes to our great pass-catching running back, Duke Johnson. Even throw the ball a little bit to Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb had a receiving touchdown last game. And lo and behold, guess what? This team is now competitive. This team is actually winning some games. I say games plural, but I do mean game. But he's only been there for 2 weeks, right? So this team is turning things around. They're playing a lot better. They deserved a better fate against the Chiefs than what they got. They had a ton of injuries in the secondary early in that game that really hurt them, so they didn't cover that week. But they come out last week and they win the game outright as underdogs. All it takes is more intelligent play calling and decision making, using more opportune plus EV decisions, and it's something that needs to happen throughout the NFL more and more. And I think that the teams that aren't doing it are the teams that are going to fall behind. And unfortunately, those teams are the teams that are starting behind the 8 ball to begin with right now. The teams that are the worst teams in the league are the least likely to be aggressive and incorporating more of these analytically based decisions into their game plans because they're too busy focusing on, the blame game or how am I going to save myself as opposed to, venturing down that path. Do they need to? Yes, they absolutely need to. It would be in their best interest and their team's best interest because they don't have as much talent to compete, so they need every edge that they can get. But they aren't doing that, and so I'm intrigued to see what will end up happening here with Cleveland the rest of the way now that they've gotten rid of Hugh and have Freddie calling plays.
Biggest single story in the NFL this week, and perhaps I'm burying the headline, perhaps I should have started with this, and I'll start with you, Warren, but Bill, you can feel free to chime in as well, is obviously the move from for the Rams-Chiefs game, the marquee game not only of this week in the NFL, but really perhaps it could be argued of the regular season, the move from Estadio Azteca in Mexico City to Los Angeles. And you tweeted the other day, interesting, Warren, you said, interesting that despite the elevation, and thank you for using elevation and not altitude, by the way, Warren, thank you for that. Interesting that despite the elevation no longer being an issue, line makers opened the Rams-Chiefs total at 63.5, the same as the original opener. The extreme elevation would have allowed longer field goals and gassed the defenses more, especially in the second half. You took note of that. Flesh that out for me. You still a little surprised by all that?
I'm a little surprised at their opener. Look, forget the field conditions. Like on October 24th, there was an early total that was posted by one of the books out in Vegas. They opened this thing at 63.5, and that was what the total was before the field conditions became more widely, discussed. And so the total was 63.5 before field conditions became an issue. When field conditions became more of an issue and it started to come out, hey, players might actually not play, they don't feel comfortable. Like I called Crack up, and I think he was in the barbershop or something, and I was like, look, this is basically a free roll for us here. Take the under in this game. Because if the venue gets changed, all bets are refunded. If the venue stays the same and players sit, that's value to the under. If the venue stays the same and the field is so bad that guys on offense can't even cut and don't have footing, then that's more value to the under. So it's basically like a free roll on the under. So that total started plummeting after that. I think it got as low as like 62, 61.5 within like an hour and a half. And then they finally announced, hey, we're switching the venue. They pulled the game off the board, and lo and behold, they repost the total at 63.5. To me, one of the bigger edges, and back when they first started playing games in Mexico City, I remember a game, I think it was Oakland Raiders and the Houston Texans, if I'm not mistaken, a few years back. And that game, I think, was like in the 40s, like mid-40s, and got pounded to the over once the sharper bettors realized, hey, these defenses are going to get gassed in the second half. And guess what? These kickers can make field goals from a little bit further out. And some people, on Twitter are like, well, if they're kicking field goals, then that's not going according to schedule for a game like this. But the point is, let's say you're on like the 40-yard line, okay, and you're in a bad situation where you're in like a 4th and 7. If it's 4th and 3, you're probably going to go for a 4th and 4, yes. 4th and 7, probably not, but yet you're now in field goal range at that elevation to go ahead and attempt the field goal as opposed to punting it back. So I think there would be a couple opportunities for long field goals in that game, which obviously is going to help scoring. Even if the guy misses, then the opposing team gets great starting field position for their next drive. So that would have been an edge, and the defensive factor in the second half with two offenses that go up tempo, that also would have been an edge playing at the elevation there. So I don't think that there's any edge to the over being that it's back now in LA, that it should be set the same as it was when it was in Mexico City, several weeks ago. That being said, I'm not like running to the window to bet the under here on a total like this, but I would be very surprised if this game got bet significantly higher than this right now. In other words, I think money ultimately at some point will come in on the under from somebody who just wants to take a little opportunity shot at the value of such a historic total. But I don't necessarily see myself running to do that immediately.
Yeah, it should be pointed out also that always check the rules of your particular sports book, because I too immediately, Jorge asked me before, when they were speculating as to whether this game would be moved or not, and he said, well, if it does, do all bets get voided? My instinct was to say yes, absolutely, they all do because of the change of venue. It's a totally different event. Not the case everywhere though. Golden Nugget right here in Las Vegas, bets are action, same day, doesn't matter where it's played. Same matchup, as long as it's the same calendar day, people have those bets. So if they have, so they were locked into whatever was bet, as if the game were being played in Mexico City. They still stand for this game in Los Angeles. Anything to add on that, Bill?
Warren gave me a really good stat that day. We were talking about this game, about the free rolling with the under, but he said that every game that was lined 57 or higher has went over. Every game that's been, lined 57 or over in the NFL has went over. Is that correct, Warren? Is that is the number you gave me, right?
Yes.
So that's an interesting stat. However, there's no way I know we're not going to be doing nothing on the over. And I mean, if anyway, there's only one way to bet this game, and it's going to be probably on the under. Maybe 31.5 points first half. My God, but we're not doing anything on it yet. However, you never know. You never know what happens by game time. But I don't think we're doing anything yet in that game. So, no, nothing really strong on that game.
It's an interesting handicap because we were talking about the other day casually at my Behind the Book shoot, and we were talking about, will both coaches go into this game saying to themselves, hey, look, we want to keep the opposing offense off the field, so it's going to be a ground-heavy game, both with Kareem Hunt and Todd Gurley. The flip side of that is, but the opposing defenses are so beatable, maybe we're just shooting ourselves in the foot by having that attitude. So it's going to be a fascinating game.
When we come back, we close out the show with an appropriately named segment, Guess the Closing Lines. That's next on Inside the Numbers, the best of VSiN.
This is Inside the Numbers, the Pro Football Edition, the very best information from VSiN's hosts and guests on this week's biggest pro football games. You can listen to VSiN on SiriusXM Channel 204. Watch us online at vsin.com and follow us on Twitter at VSiN Live.
Well, the best time to bet anything is if the time is right for you at the number that you see up there. Parlays and teasers take a little more explaining, so I would try to get to the window as soon as possible. I wouldn't wait to the end when you're in line and there's 10 people ahead of you, then get to the front and actually go through 3 or 4 or 5 parlays from 6 to 8 teamers. Teaser bets, be a little bit more careful with, only because if you cross key numbers there and you don't utilize it, you're just simply wasting your money. The parlays, like everything else, have been this way since the beginning of time. If you're looking to bet the favorites, you want to bet them early in the week because that's when the line will come out. 80% of the time, the games usually go up near the end of the week. So if you're looking to bet the underdog, I would suggest, this is not every time, but most of the time you'll find a better bargain for your bet at the plus side near the end of the week.
So there's a couple of schools of thought here. The first school of thought is that you're better off not placing a parlay or a teaser altogether and just sticking to singles, because that's where the optimal value can be found. But what's the fun in that? We all love to bet parlays and bet teasers. It makes it betting more fun, betting more exciting. So the optimal time to be placing a parlay or a teaser is when you see a line that might be a little bit stale, or a line that hasn't moved as quickly as it needs to catch up with the market, because that's when you're going to create the optimal value for yourself as a bettor or a punter.
When you look at parlays, sometimes it's hard enough just to pick one winner, let alone multiple winners. But I think if you like favorites, you want to bet early because you're afraid that number might start to go up a little bit. If you're going to bet underdogs, maybe you wait a little bit to see how high that number goes, maybe to create some value. I think you're looking at key numbers, too, if you like a certain team. If it goes beyond 3, maybe you like the underdog. Below 3, maybe you like the favorite. When it comes to teasers, a lot of times you're looking maybe to tease that favorite down, who's, say, a 6 or 7 point favorite, to maybe pick or actually getting a point or two. And if you like an underdog, again, you're looking at some of those key numbers where you could maybe get over that 3, over that 6, over 7, or over any key numbers to kind of create some value. Again, it's hard enough to pick one, but if you like multiple games, I think that's the best approach.
Welcome back to Inside the Numbers, where you get the best insight from VSiN's experts on this weekend's biggest pro football games.
They take a swing at it every week on Between the Sidelines. The Westgate Superbook's John Murray joins the show to take a guess at where spreads will settle before kickoffs on Sunday.
You ready to go? You ready to play?
Of course I'm ready.
Guess the closing lines here on VSiN. No JVT, he's off today, but it's Sam Panayotovich and John Murray. Carolina, Detroit. Line hovering between 3.5 or 4. Game is in the Motor City, and Detroit looked god-awful against Chicago. They were down 26-0. I rolled over and went back to bed because I had the Lions plus the 7. Where does this one move? Carolina minus 3.5 or 4.
Carolina looked awful, too. They got blown out by the Steelers on Thursday Night Football, but I think the number will actually go up. I'll call it 4. I don't see it going back down to 3. The Lions are a lost cause. Carolina's still very much in the playoff race in the NFC South.
And the Lions may be the most questionable win of the season when they beat the Patriots at home on Sunday night this year. A couple nice wins, actually, for the Lions this year, but they also lost to the Jets by 30.
I'm still going to go with the Bills-Vikings is the craziest one of the year. But you're right, though. That Lions-Patriots one, it looks stranger with each week that passes.
Dallas-Atlanta. And the Falcons are favored here. 3.5 at the South Point, 3.5 at the Westgate. Where does this one move? Dallas on the road in Atlanta.
I'll call it 3, and maybe even it could be 3 even with Dallas juiced. Dallas coming off of a huge win on Sunday Night Football. We just saw Atlanta lose to the Browns, Sammy. I think the public is definitely going to be on the Cowboys here.
Cincinnati and Baltimore is off the board. We still don't know who will be at quarterback. If it's Flacco, spread will be bigger. If it's Lamar Jackson, it'll be lower. Let's say that Lamar Jackson is starting, and this opens up at Baltimore minus 3. Does it close at a pick'em?
I mean, I think that people will look to bet the Bengals, but, the Bengals are coming off of a 51-14 loss on Sunday. I don't think there's going to be a rush of people looking to bet on them.
Bigger rush to bet against Lamar Jackson or bet on the Bengals?
I haven't seen much of Lamar Jackson this year, but he's replacing Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco's not exactly Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers himself. I do think you're right, though. I think the public will come in on the Bengals.
Minnesota and Chicago. And I'll take this one because I think the Bears are going to close -1 or -1.5 in this spot. Already down from 3 to 2.5. I think if you like the Vikings, you may want to pounce now. Don't think this one goes back to 3. Could be wrong. That's how I feel, though.
I'm going to agree with you. I don't think this thing's going to go to a full 3. I think the money's going to come in on the Vikings, and I'll call it 1.5 as well. I like that call.
New Orleans at home against Philadelphia. The champs are getting 8 right now, which seems like it's way too high. But then again, the Saints have won 7 in a row and covered 6 in a row. New Orleans -8. Does it go any higher? Question mark.
It's not. I don't think it's going to go any lower. I think it's more likely to go higher. I'll call it 9. Maybe 9.5 to guard against teasers. Sometimes you'll see books go to 9.5 to force you to lay 7-point teasers to get it through the 3. And I know that the Saints are going to be a very popular teaser play this week.
Yeah, this one, when you guys opened it up, I want to remember the line that you had was 7. And that was before Sunday night. And the look-ahead, you remember the look-ahead, what that was? Had to be lower than 7.
I think it was 6. I think it was either 6 or 6.5, and I think people were taking it, if I remember correctly, Sammy.
Taking the points.
Yeah.
Well, how things have changed after 1 week.
Yeah, well, when you go out and win by 37 points and your opponent loses at home as a touchdown favorite, your number is going to go up.
Tennessee, Indianapolis, and I think we know where this one's going to go, but how low will it go? It was 3. Now it is 2 at the Westgate, 2.5 at the South Point. Any chance the Titans close as the favorite here?
I don't know about favorite, but I wouldn't be surprised to see this thing get down to Colts -1 or pick 'em. Tennessee coming off of a great win on Sunday against New England.
Houston, Washington. Redskins getting 3 at home at the Westgate, 2.5 at the South Point, 2.5 at the Golden Nugget. Does this one move at all? Texans at the Redskins.
I think it'll close 3. Houston -3 in this spot. I can see where that line's coming from, and we already talked about it, but the Texans' defensive line should maul the Redskins' backup offensive linemen.
Houston and Washington done. Now Tampa and New York. The Giants hosting the Buccaneers on the opening line show. This was a pick'em, and now the Giants off a big win. God is good. Remember, God is good.
God is good.
Giants -1 now. I have no idea where this goes because I think both teams suck, and I don't even want to spend more than 10 seconds on this.
Everybody in our room made this game pick 'em, so I'm going to say it closes pick 'em. I'm going to give deference to our group.
Denver and the Chargers. This game is in Los Angeles. Not much home field there, but the Denver Broncos have Vance Joseph. I guess the Chargers have Anthony Lynn, too, so this is not a battle of wits by any means. Chargers laying 7 here, John.
I'll go 7.5 here, Sammy. I think it'll tick up a little bit on the Chargers. The Chargers will be a popular public play.
How about the Raiders and Cardinals? We're seeing some 5s in the global markets, a couple 5s in Vegas right now as well. But the Westgate and South Point each have 4. Arizona at home against the Raiders. And you know the Raiders ideally would not want to win this game because they want to keep that top spot in the draft. Does it get higher? Are people going to buy the Cardinals that much?
They're not going to buy the Raiders. Yeah, I'll call it 4.5. I think the Cardinals, they've got a few good players on their defense. I like their offense better with Byron Leftwich in there calling the plays. Yeah, why not? 4.5.
Pittsburgh and Jacksonville. This was flexed out of Sunday night. Now it's a Sunday afternoon game because the Jags have been just awful this year. The Steelers, 5.5-point favorites on the road in the Sunshine State against Jacksonville, and Doug Marrone now suddenly on the hot seat.
Yeah, I'm going to say this thing goes up. Pittsburgh's coming off of a great win on Thursday Night Football against Carolina. I'll say 6.5 for the Steelers here.
And the last one, before we grab a timeout, Frank Schwab on the other side. This line is back up at a couple places in Vegas. It was taken off the board. Westgate and William Hill have lines right now. Westgate 3.5, Rams 4 at William Hill. Total 63.5 or 64. 3.5, really. So a point adjustment here from Mexico City to Los Angeles. The game has been changed and relocated. No more Mexico City. Now it's at the Coliseum, and the Westgate has 3.5. But where does it close?
I made this game pick 'em when I thought it was in Mexico. I'm going to say 3 now that it's in LA. I'll give 3 points to the Rams for home field, although I could argue that's pretty generous at the Coliseum.
Yeah, you'll probably see some people hop in and grab the hook with the Chiefs.
Yeah, probably, but I don't know how much that hook is worth when you're talking about a game with a total in the mid-60s.
That's our show for this week. We hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching or listening to Inside the Numbers. Good luck this weekend, and as Uncle Brent always says, cash and tickets is what it's all about.
This is Inside the Numbers, the Pro Football Edition, the very best information from VSiN's hosts and guests on this week's biggest pro football games. You can listen to VSiN on SiriusXM Channel 204. Watch us online at vsin.com and follow us on Twitter at VSiN Live.
Here's some of what you missed.
Amal Shaw couldn't be here because he was last seen at the Long Bar downtown at the D. Tell us about that.
Yeah, Thursday after we were on,